Hello and welcome to this video. My name is David Dawn. In this video I'm going to attempt to clearly explain margin collapsing to you with regards to the margin and the padding and the height and the width, whatever, of elements. And I'm just going to jump straight into it. So what we have here is a h1 tag, and then we have a div tag, and we have a paragraph tag. Okay, and first things first, we're going to look at the margin, and then we're going to bit by bit explain what margin collapsing is, but we want to get an understanding of it first of all. So the h1 tag, let's just have a look at what margin it actually has. Okay, so we can come down to this computed section if it's going to allow me to move it up. Okay, it's not going to. We can see here that it has a it has a margin here of 64.32 on the top and on the bottom. All right, now let's have a look at this paragraph, and you see here it has a margin of 48 on the top and the bottom by default. All right, so when we look at this div, when we look at this margin here, we see that between the margin of the container, right, and the margin collapsing title, there is now 64.32 margin. Okay, and if we change the background color of the container, so let's just say background color to be turquoise, right, and then we change the background color of I'm going to say orange, change the background color of them, and now we change the background color of let's just say purple, and color is equal to white. So now we see the color of the paragraph, all right, and we see the color of the container. So right now we can't see the container, but we know that the container doesn't have any margin, right, but the h1 does have margin, but the paragraph has margin as well, and you see that the paragraph is taking up the full height and width because it's a block element, right? It's supposed to take up the full width of it, but it has padding, or it has margin, sorry, top and bottom. So let's now go and stick another paragraph in there and just say paragraph 2, and we see that there's now padding. What's padding? There's now margin between the two paragraphs, all right? However, the margin for the paragraph, the first one, sticks outside of the container. Now we could remove this, but that would be defeating the object of this one video if you didn't understand why this is happening. So when two elements are adjacent to each other, they take on the one with the highest. They take on the one with the highest margin, the vertical margin. Right? This is only talking about vertical margin, and we know that the h1 tag has the highest one, so it's taken on 64, and the paragraph only has 48. So the spacing between the h1 tag here, and this div container is then 64.320. All right. Now, in order to get rid of this, we need to change this container. So if we want the paragraph to have a margin vertical relative to the container, we have to tell the container that you need to respect this, and we have to do this using display inline block. And now you'll see that the container doesn't take up the full width because it's inline block now, so we have to alter it to say 100%, right? With 100%, you can see now that it expands once again, because inline block allows you to manipulate the width and the height of it, and the vertical and the vertical margins as well, right? But what it does do is that it negates this margin collapsing between the h1 tag and the div container. So it means now that because the container has 0 margin, now if we add margin top for the container of 10 pixels onto it, you can see now that it's moved, so the h1 tag has respected the margin top of the container. So there's no margin collapsing anymore because this one container is display inline block, and this one, I don't want to say cancels margin collapsing. It just doesn't happen because of it, right? But another way that we can get around this is that if we now do the container with margin top, we see it has a margin top here, but we see that the H1 tag has the 64, let's just say pixels margin, right? Because this has the higher margin, it wins. So it means there's only one margin being applied. Now, how can we get around this without using CSS? Well, we can also do this by putting something really, which let's just call it a spacer, right? And we can just say style here, and we'll just say height is 1 pixel, right? And you can see now that because we put something in between it, the margin now is being respected by both, right? But obviously this is the container has it's at 10 pixels margin top, but the paragraph has 48. Now, the one with the highest amount of margin always wins. So the child element, or the first element and the last element, they are going to dictate the vertical margins of the parent elements, okay? And the middle ones, they are going to then be relative to the adjacent. So if there was a paragraph 3, for example, then it would mean, let's just do paragraph 3. So paragraph 3 is dictating the margin collapsing on the bottom, and paragraph 1 is dictating the margin top, or the margin on the container at the top, and paragraph 2 is just going to do its own thing, right? And because paragraph 2, let's just say that style here and margin top is equal to 60, because this paragraph here has the higher margin between paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, its margin on paragraph 2 wins the race for the margin, all right? And so the margin will always be whoever's got the highest amount on the vertical part. Now, if we just say on this paragraph, display inline, you can see now that it respects the margin on both sides now, because inline block, it doesn't cancel margin collapsing, but it just doesn't allow it, let's call it. I don't know what the right terminology is for that. But so you can change it, you can remove it also with, if we say overflow is equal to hidden as well. This will change how it works, and you can see here paragraph 1 then gets its margin is within inside of its parent container now. So that's one way of doing it, but this might not be the way that you want it. So you've either got to add that spacer element between it, so the margin is going to be respected, or you've got to do the display inline block, or you've got to do that, which means then you've got to do width equals 100%, which we can remove that when it isn't display inline block on a div, because it's going to take up the full width anyway. I hope this is enough, and this was not supposed to be like a mastering of margin collapsing. It's supposed to be just like an introduction to margin collapsing, because I'm guessing there is a whole lot more you need to know about it to master it. But I think this is enough for you to understand how to get around it, and don't just jump in at doing overflow is equal to hidden, because there are hacks that you can get around this, right? And if you don't want to change the container, for example, so let's make sure the container just has its respected margin and background, and we want paragraph 1 to respect the margin from the above and below. We can wrap it with inside of a div. Now, this doesn't solve it, right? But what we have to do here is then say, whoops, not this here. We have to say then here, display inline block, and say width is equal to 100%. You can see here now that this div, we are saying, hey, be 100% width, work as if you were a normal div. But now this paragraph, it respects its parents, right? And it has now the margin top and bottom. So this is a way, it's not a hack, this is a way that you can cleanly get around it, is by wrapping your elements and then changing the display property to whatever it is the correct one that you want to do. with that said, I hope you've learned something from this one video. This really helped me to research and learn about why this is happening. And yeah, it was really quite a lot of fun actually. If you do like this video, please give it a like. This hasn't just been a 10-minute video. I've done an hour or so or 2 hours worth of practicing and researching, making sure I've got everything correct. And this is the first time I made the video, so I think I've got it all correct first time. Anyway, please let me know if you've got any feedback or anything like that. Please feel free to put your feedback in the comment section down below. If you don't like it or I've said something wrong, please let me know, because I'm all about enhancing my videos for you. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe and goodbye.